Customer service, 12 years ago when we came back, none of it existed here. So simple things like, maybe opening the door for the customer when they're like walking out, or, if someone's old and they're having trouble getting into the store, then, setting up the ramp for them and things like that.
What if today everything is taken away from you?
I will start from rock bottom because I've done that many, many times.
Advice that you would love to give to the women?
Belief in yourself. Like a lot of people are always looking outwardly to see what's happening. With us, it was always inward looking. Like, what can we do to be better tomorrow uh, than what we are today?
Hello, this is Joey, your host, and welcome to my podcast, All That She Wants. Swati believes in the idea life is simple and easy. Don't waste time and energy being judgmental or being judged by somebody. Adaptability is her core strength. Life shouldn't be cling or emotionally dependent. One should easily be able to attach and detach to restore your sanity. Today, I have a very interesting guest who's a co-founder of famous chain Patisserie Cafe by the name Conçu. Hi Swati, I welcome you to my pod, All That She Wants.
Thank you so much for having me here.
I'm glad that you could make it in your busy schedule, and
My pleasure.
knowing that you're traveling tomorrow and getting some time out for this was really overwhelming.
My pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Being a co-founder of Conçu, your original dream, or you had any other plans for your career?
So this was not my dream at all. In fact, this was not even in the plan. Just happened by chance. I think the universe has its ways. So my husband Sahil, he's the pastry chef, and Conçu was his brainchild. In fact, this Conçu happening was not even on his plan, really, so to speak. He studied to be a pastry chef in the UK, and then 4 years after working and studying there, we decided to come back to Hyderabad, which is our hometown, both of our hometown. And then he said, let me just try and start something here and see, because we felt like there was a gap in the market back then, 12 years ago, for a European style patisserie. And we said, let's do this for a while and see how it goes. And then if it doesn't work, we'll always go back to like our jobs, maybe go back to the UK or because something else. And that's how Conçu started. At that point, I had finished my environmental studies and I was working with an NGO. I was doing a research paper, so I was working remotely. So when Sahil was setting up, as his wife, I was around just helping out while he was setting up, because he was doing everything alone. So I think like the time I was spending in setting up, and then once the patisserie took off, like I was helping out with a few hours because he was busy in the kitchen. So I would attend to a few customers, I would take a few calls, and like the couple of hours of just helping out became like half a day became full day, and then full day became like full time. So since then I've just been doing this full time. But so that's how I got in. It just started out as helping Sahil, but today I'm there day in and day out doing this and loving every moment of it. So no complaints.
Wow. I love the logo that you have of Conçu, and the name itself is so interesting. Can you just give me a brief about it?
Yes. So Conçu is a French word that means crafted or designed, and the logo is like an infinity loop heart. So there's no start, no finish. Signifies all the passion and love that we put into the brand, and hopefully this is what we'll pass on to everybody else as well. So
There is a never ending love to it.
yes.
It's been how many years that you guys have been doing this?
So next week exactly would be 12 years. So
Commendable.
yeah, we started in 2012 June, and yeah, here we are after 12 years.
So, what are the methods and concepts that you have been following and followed? And today, this cafe has been pioneer in this industry.
So, since most of our training in the hospitality or the retail industry came from when we were working back in the UK. So, Sahil was obviously working in pastry kitchens across different places in the UK. Although I was studying to be an environmentalist, a lot of my jobs would be working at places like Whole Foods Market. So, there was a lot of like customer facing interaction as well. So I think we picked up skills from the UK, so it's all very process driven, everything has a procedure, everything needs to be followed. And I think everything that we learned there, we brought back in terms of systems and procedures. So everything that starts from the day from the time the doors open to the cafe till it shuts down, there is a process for the kitchen, there's a process for housekeeping, there's processes for the barista. Everyone has checklists that they're ticking off. Everyone's making sure like they're following all the procedures.
Okay.
I think that sort of sets us apart. And also, I think we've really looked at growing our team internally and growing them from where they come, and always making sure that they learn more from their day-to-day job, and then they're ready to take the next step. So it's been 12 years. We've had people, we're blessed that a lot of people who joined us back 10 years ago are still a part of a team. Most of them are heading their own respective teams or their stores. So as we started expanding back in, say, about 2018-19, that's when we decided that all these guys that we've trained and worked with for so long, they're ready to take up their own space and manage independently.
Okay.
So then we started this sort of a format of franchising where they invest a little bit of their money as well, and we invest, and we hand over the store to them to look after as store managers or head pastry chefs or head hot kitchen chefs. They're invested in the company as well, like it's theirs as much as it feels to us that it's ours. And that's how I think we've grown, and that's how we've been able to maintain consistency and the same kind of quality that we've had since 12 years. So
that's a great idea, because making the employees a part of your company, your industry, it takes a lot. Nobody can easily give up what you have made to the employees. It takes a lot of trust and effort to put in time with them. That's commendable. Also wanted to understand, you have a process that you run for Conçu. Also understanding that you have done this back in the UK. So you try to imbibe the qualities that you have learned in them, or you just follow the process?
The qualities also, I think, because that culture of customer service, 12 years ago when we came back, none of it existed here. So simple things like, maybe opening the door for the customer when they're like walking out, or, if someone's old and they're having trouble getting into the store, then, setting up the ramp for them and things like that. Like in the UK, no matter how far somebody behind you is, when you open the door, you don't just shut it and walk out.
Exactly.
You wait for the next person to come in. And that's something very simple, but then it's something that sort of became a habit with us as well. And then when we started doing it here, then like the team sort of, we never had to tell somebody that, this is how you do it. It's just they see and they learn. So even now, like when someone's coming in, then we just hold the door for them. But this, as a culture, never really existed in Hyderabad, or I don't know if it did exist anywhere in India, but you never really see people opening doors or waiting for the next person to come in.
Hence, this city is called Nawabo ka Shehar.
I agree. And so we had a lot of young people who started wanting to work with us. Again, this was not culture back then. Over a decade ago, nobody wanted to work on the counter and like cash handle and then pack desserts for customers. Like, if you had a college degree, you didn't want to start at the bottom. But I think looking at us being on the counter, doing everything, no job's too big or too small. And especially when it's your own business, you have to do everything. And even when we hired a lot of people, we didn't stop doing those things. Till date, we still continue to do everything that's sort of required. And so I think these youngsters sort of found it inspiring. They would come and tell us that, hey, can we get a job here? Can we do the same thing? And that is what I feel brought about the change as well. And I think that's fabulous. Like India needs to change. It's not always about just being an engineer or a doctor or like.
True. Also, I think you get the belongingness to the people, that you are able to open a lot of chains, and there are more and more people who are wanting to join with you. I think that's a great thing to get in, and you guys are doing a great job.
We do get like a lot of emails and calls and inquiries for franchise opportunities every single day. We are just flooded with all of this, and we tell them that see, it doesn't work this way. Like, you know, you just like, we really need to know whom we are partnering with. Somebody we've known only for a very long time or we worked with. They're the guys who at the moment we're giving opportunities to. So there have been people who consistently, like month after month, year after year, messaged us. But I think we only want people who understand the Conçu culture, and that takes time to sort of build, be able to, you know, let you be a part of our system. So yeah, we always tell people that it's not about just investing the money. We want you to do the work as well. So if you do sign up to be a franchise partner, then you have to do everything that we've done and all the hustle that we've gone through in the last 12 years. You should be ready to do that. If you can, then our doors are open for you.
So knowing that you and Sahil, your husband, work together, what are the day in and out challenges you guys face, and how do you cope up with them? It's not easy to work with your husband at work.
Working together as spouses, yeah, it's not easy at all, I think. But also, it gives you an opportunity to learn so much more from each other because like, the initial years were extremely hard. Like, there was just so much stress because we were just fighting each other's heads. Like, everything you do seems to upset the other person, and then you're trying to do that. You're going back home, you're seeing the same person 24/7, and definitely not easy, but also I think the beauty of it is you grow together, you learn to understand how to work around these things. Um, it's extremely stressful for your personal life initially, while your professional life is doing really well. But I think it takes time. Like, I don't know if everybody else has sort of figured a way of working around this with their spouses. But I think me and Sahil over time have very beautifully managed to get the stability because A, there's immense amount of trust. Like, when end of the day, whether he's working or I'm not there or he's not there, there's no doubt at all about, is the work being done? Is it getting done properly? Am I getting the bad end of the deal? Nothing of that sort. You just trust that person so much that you know that you both are going to grow together. I think one thing which sort of worked is now we don't talk about work to each other directly. So his team will talk to my team will talk to his team. But then, because when we start interacting, he's got his things, I've got my things, my viewpoints and all, and then it sort of escalates from there. So now we've decided that he'll do whatever is within his scope. I do whatever I'm supposed to be doing. We have something to close off on or a decision to make, then we're doing it collectively with other people involved and just not like both of us. It's worked beautifully and yeah.
Also, it's a fact, right? Somebody from the family who's involved in business and who's in the core team, definitely that business has to grow because there is immense trust. You don't have to look back. I think that's what is beautifully growing between both of you.
Exactly, and it also has now helped us with our personal relationship as well so much because you know, when you're able to achieve so much together, and when you look back and see all the wonderful things you've done and that beautiful journey, that the hardest part is when it makes you the happiest, right? We're like, we've crossed all those hurdles together, and there's so many more years to come to do the same thing. So it's fantastic.
So this I understand. How is it back at home when you have two beautiful women around you? How does it work out? And how did it shape out with you?
So because I was working full time in this business, and hospitality is in a way thankless. Like, there are no vacations, you're always working weekends. When everybody is holidaying, you're the busiest, so you have to be there. So I did that for like the first 8-10 years. All the time we were here, we wouldn't take days off, we wouldn't not take time off for like months at a stretch. Until then, I had my daughter and I had to take time off. And I just realized, like, that support from my family was so important for me to continue doing this while they were helping out with managing my daughter, my mother-in-law. Like, it's beautiful that they're there all the time. Like, I never have to stress about leaving my daughter back at home or even traveling for work or otherwise. Like I take a lot of time now for myself. I travel with friends, I travel with family, I travel alone. And a lot of times I don't take my daughter along. And they are there, like my mother's there, my mother-in-law is there. I know she's taken care of. And that's a lot, like to have that support of two women who mean so much to you, and you know that you can trust them and you can focus on what you want to do, because otherwise you're always like busy managing home and work, and your mind is at home while you're at work, your mind is at work while you're at home. It's all that extra stress that you don't need. And when you have the support from people at home, then it just makes your life so much easier.
So you're equally able to give time to both your mothers?
Um, I try as much as I can. I don't think I'm just doing justice. I could do a lot more. But we try to take vacations together. My mother-in-law and my mom, they get along well, really, really well. They're great friends.
Touch wood, this is something rare to hear.
Like they travel alone. Like even times when I'm not able to go with them on a holiday, they both take a vacation. They go for movies together. They go shopping together. They'll have sleepovers and things like that. So it's great. Like that bond between them is special, and my bond with each of them and us together is very special. Like there was last year, I was extremely busy at work because our Bangalore store was opening and like things were happening. And so a friend of mine was going on a vacation with her mother and son. And she asked me, do you want to come along? I said, I can't come along, but I think my mom, my mother-in-law and my daughter would like to do this vacation. So they all went off to Maldives and they had like spent a nice week over there together. So um, a few years before that, just after Diwali, I needed to take time off. So I said, you know what, why don't we do a vacation? So it was my mother-in-law, my mother, me and my daughter, all these different generations of women just going off on a vacation. And people sometimes ask me like, is this real? Like, how do you get along so well with them and how do they get along so well with each other? But I think it's when you understand and you give that respect to each other, it's always about elevating each other's experience, always about what can I do so that it makes their life easier. That makes all the difference.
It's a complete balance that you have of your life. You don't have to put in a lot of effort. It is automatically coming in, let it be work, family, mothers, parents, everyone.
But I invest a lot of time in my relationships, whether it's with friends, whether it's family, whether it's people I know whom I'm working with, anything. Like it's never about, okay, what am I going to get out of this? It's how can we do things together, or how can we spend time nicely together? Uh, Everything has, I mean, there's a lot of positivity in my relationships with people, so it's never, um, okay, of course, you will sometimes have your energy draining days. Sometimes you're just not able to keep up. But my life revolves around multiple relationships. Everyone supporting me every time I've needed it, or me being there for them whenever they need it. So it's like I have this whole bunch of like really close friends. And if you look at me, you feel like, I might be an extrovert. Because it's in a customer facing role, so I'm talking a lot, but I'm actually sort of a very shy person. I do this in the business because that's sort of a demand, but otherwise if you see me in big groups, I'm just going to be on my table.
So you're more of a close person?
I'm a very close person, but one-on-one I have very strong relationships with many people. So I will have, so if I have to put a list of my best friends, there'll be like about 25, 30 best friends, where they're just a call away, or I'm just a call away from them. And when you look at me in like a group with the same people, you won't think I'm so close to them. But individually, I invest a lot of time with them. And I'm very open, like everything about my life, they would know. Like there's nothing to hide. Like I never have any insecurities, or I never think like, oh, what will they think about me if I tell them that of certain things, whether it's your wins, your losses, anything that you're struggling with, what you're not able to do. I'm like, you know what, if things are getting hard, you need to share, you need to make these connections with people, because we end up wasting so much of our time just stressing about things that
Exactly.
are unnecessary. Like half the time we are overthinking scenarios that will never happen. We're thinking about what the other person is going to think about us. If we drop all of this, it just gets a lot easier. So it might seem like on the surface of it, a lot of people come and tell me, oh, you're so lucky, right? Everything works out for you. I'm like, maybe there's luck involved. I'm not denying that. But also, there's a lot of effort to make sure that everything works together. Because if it doesn't, like when we start bringing in so many expectations and it's just so much else in all these relationships, that's when they start failing. That's when things don't work out. And I think that's what we are doing wrong these days.
Also, there's a lot of hard work required from the other person. So, do you equally get that from the other end?
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But again, you're not going to hold it against people who can't do that. Sometimes they're just not built that way. Sometimes
Do you try and put it across to them, explain it to them? Look, this is what it is, and this is how I feel things are moving in the wrong direction.
I try because I'm a person who speaks a lot. Like I speak my mind. I don't like to hide things or like keep it within me, expect them to understand. So I'm like, if I have a problem, I tell you that, hey, this is it. Can we sort it together? Sometimes they want to, sometimes they don't want to make the effort. Sometimes they don't know how to do this because of their trauma, their issues, their insecurities. When you talk, I feel like you're able to sort things out. Sometimes the other person just doesn't want to. Then maybe it's time to just move on. Like, this, like I said, there's no time to waste. There's so much you have to do in this world. So if you need to drop some baggage, you drop and you move on. Like, you move forward because that's the only way. Like, that's what you need.
Knowing that there is no role which is more essential than that of motherhood, how do you embrace your relationship with your daughter in this busy schedule of yours?
My daughter, she is my best friend. Like, she's turning 8 in a few days, but the way that child is, I think she's an old soul, and she somehow came into this life to change just my entire personality, I think. And she's just so receptive. Like from the time I conceived her till it's been 8 years, she's never, ever, ever made me think, oh my God, like how do people deal with kids? How do people manage all of this? I feel like sometimes she looks after me and not the other way around. And there have been multiple incidences when I've seen that from her, and it's a very unlike. It's not a childlike behavior. It's, I don't know. I've in fact not felt that kind of energy from probably anybody else, even of my age group. Like she just feels like sometimes I feel like it's my grandmother who's come back.
Okay. Daddy Ma at home.
Yeah, like for me. So in fact, so I lost my best friend when I was about 15 years ago. I was extremely close to her. I lost her in an accident. My first day of university in the UK, I was walking. I get a call from India saying like she's no more. So my life sort of shattered over there, and I do tell my daughter about her and our relationship and how close she was to me. The other day I was reading like a book at home, and I was just in my book drawer, and this birthday card fell out of one of these books, like old books. And she was very curious. She's like, "What's that?" And then I was like, "Hey, this is a birthday card from Tanya Masi." So my friend used to write with the card. She used to write like these really long notes to me and about like how life would be. And that note also said that we'll grow up together. When we get married, you'll have your kids. She's very clear that she's not going to have kids, but she clearly mentioned that when you have your kid, and like all these things as journey will be going together. So I sort of like teared up, and my daughter obviously she's extremely good at sensing my emotions. So there are days when I come back from work and extremely stressed. Nobody would know it, but she knows. She can just read my energy, or if I've had a downer for some reason, nobody knows. I'll have a smile, I'll come back, and she can just know by my voice. She's like, "Are you crying?" And I'm like, I don't say no because, then you're lying, right?
Exactly.
So I'm like, how do you know, type? So she'd be like, okay, what happened? Or are you okay? Or then she'll be like, she'll get me water. Or some days when I get a lot of migraines and stuff. So she'll come, she'll ask me to lie down on the bed. She'll get me like an orange and she'll get me some water. She'll write a get well soon card and things like that. So when I was talking about the birthday card about my friend, when that came up, she knew immediately that she had to do something. She's like, just lie down on the bed, close your eyes, and think that, you're holding Tanya Masi's hand. You guys are going, walking. Just, sorry.
You're okay?
Yeah, so she made me lie down on the bed and then she asked me to close my eyes and then she's like, I'm going to talk you through things. So you just close your eyes and imagine. So she said, imagine that you're holding Tanya Masi's hand. You both are walking through this beautiful garden. There are lots of flowers and there are like yellow flowers and pink flowers and there's grass. And then all your other friends who mean so much to both of you, they're all sitting there and you're all in like a circle and you're talking to each other and it's just a lot of positive feelings and I almost went into this meditative state and I do a lot of these I have these meditation apps sometimes and they're very similar and she's not done any of this ever like I don't think she's heard any of these things maybe on YouTube or whatever.
Okay.
So for her to be able to do this naturally, I think she's a healer. Like, she knew and she did it so well. I would not believe that it's an 8-year-old. Like if I was just closing my eyes and listening to it, I would think it's a therapist who's like talking me through all of this. And she did that for a good 5-6 minutes. She's like, put your hand on your heart, feel your heartbeat and things like that. And I'm like, I'm blessed to have someone
Such
like
a great
this
soul
in my life. And like really like
at this tender age, look at the perception of life she's got and the connect that she feels with you.
she's phenomenal and there's so much empathy. Like every time we're on the street, she'd be like, if someone comes in and they're like disabled or whatever. So I think motherhood is such a beautiful emotion and like my daughter is a very important part of my life. My mother, my mother-in-law, my grandmother was someone who really influenced me. Like she shaped my personality. I lost my dad when I was 3.5. My mom was looking after me and my sister. As a single mother, it's hard, right? But just a few weeks after my mother lost my dad, my grandmother was like, you know what, here, we're going to teach you how to drive. We're signing you up for driving lessons. And my mom had no idea. She's like, this is not the time. And she's like, you'll thank me for it someday when you look back. And my grandparents would sit in the car and they take her to the narrowest of lanes and they're like, they'd make her practice her driving. And my mom at that point just didn't understand why were they putting her through this.
Okay.
But today she's like, you know what,
She
if that
thanks.
lady did not push me for this,
At that time, your grandmother was so progressive and this thought.
in 80s, right?
Exactly.
Late 80s, she was like, and she was so strong. Like she was a force of nature. And everything I learned, like her ethics, her moral compass was super, super strong. She would just fight the world if she think that there was injustice. She would just be like, you know what, fight it, like, and that's what, and we lived in a house where it was just my grandmother, my mother, my sister and me. So I think I always had like so many strong women around me and that immensely shaped my personality. Also makes you sort of realize like you don't have to be dependent on anybody else, whether it's emotionally, financially, physically. You don't need anyone else. Like if you yourself focus so much on making yourself strong, then I think that cuts it, right? You don't need anything else.
What if today everything is taken away from you?
I will start from rock bottom because I've done that many, many times, which is fine, right? So
You have that energy and capacity and
I
the
will
kick
have it
to
today,
push
I will
you
have it
off.
20 years from now as well. Because I guess when you get so materially attached to certain things or a way of living, then it's hard to go back to a different kind of life. But when it doesn't really matter, when you're not really attached to any of it, whether it's there, great, it's there. If it's not there, also it's fine, right? Like I guess that's how I live life.
Look at
So.
it. What more have you held for yourself in future?
So a lot. I mean, I'm a person who lives by experiences. Like it's not for me, things don't matter, but experiences do, and relationships do. So I'm turning 40 in a few months. So last year I just decided out of the blue that I'm just going to make a list of 40 things I want to do this year. So people have a lifetime bucket list.
Yes.
I don't really have a lifetime bucket list because I feel like I've done a lot already. But these 40 things for this year, I was like, I put this insane target saying, if I achieve all of this, I made a nearly impossible list, and surprisingly, I'm more than halfway through it with like a few months, with 4 months to go. So everything from like say bungee jumping to getting a tattoo to like seeing the northern lights. I ended up doing an expedition to Antarctica because that was something which was my dream since I started doing environmental consultancy. When I was studying, I was like, someday I am going to go to Antarctica, and at that point I couldn't afford it. But then last year, out of the blue, I was like, I just booked and I went, and that was my first solo trip for 3.5 weeks. Traveled like from Asia, I went to the US, so it was like 4 continents in 3.5 weeks, all alone. Met my best friend in the US, then flew to Argentina. From there, went to Antarctica, then came back to Argentina, then came back to India, and it was phenomenal. Like I can't explain how important traveling solo is. And I've always wanted to travel solo. It was not like I never feared traveling solo, but some things never aligned. Like every time I wanted to do a solo trip, something else would sort of come up, and I would end up with people on the trip. And this one was, I think, a life-changing experience, and I'm so glad I did it alone because, again, like a lot of these things change my personality. They just motivate me so much more to do so much in life. And then I have a lot of people, like when I started posting on Instagram about these experiences, and I just have a lot, especially a lot of mothers who keep messaging me and like, you know what, we are so inspired that you can manage your work and your child and like your personal
I am myself getting one while speaking to you.
yeah, so I like, and a lot of these people have really, they're like go-getters. They've done so much in their lives, immensely successful women, and it feels nice when they text me because I'm like, I don't look at myself in that way, and then they're like, you know what, you inspire us, and I was like, wow, if I did, then I think I've done a little bit to change things, right?
Indirectly, yes, you have supported and inspired a lot, because sometimes you don't really have to converse with the person to share and talk.
Right, right.
It just happens when they see and also they hear about the person from somebody. It already feels inspiring.
So I always tell all these women, please don't give in so much to everything else and everybody else that you forget yourself. Like, your entire life will pass. And then when you look back, you shouldn't have these regrets that I didn't take time off for myself, or I did all of this for all these people and they never gave me back all of this in return. Or, I've always been a giver. I've not, looked after myself.
Okay.
Because that's going to happen. Like everybody's just going to be so focused on themselves that they're not going to stop and ask.
Yes.
So you have to do this for yourself. And I think society doesn't tell us enough to do this for ourselves, because I think by nature men are so self-involved, absorbed with their own things and their own work and their goals and everything. A lot of it may be that they feel like they're doing it for their family and their kids and all that, but they don't stop and ask their wives or the kids that, I'm doing all of this. Do you really want it? Sometimes maybe they don't, right? But
correct.
so it's up to us to make sure that we check everything off our list and not expect it from anybody else. So
After listening to you, I feel what all I have to do.
really, like there's just, and a lot of these joys are like simple joys. Like I started, like after I lost my best friend, we used to read a lot together. We used to exchange books and all. 15 years ago, I somehow, with work and studies, university, I dropped that habit of reading. I used to read a lot even as a kid.
Okay.
And this year I decided I'm going to read 40 books in a year. And that's a lot. I was like, I haven't read two
Are
books
you
in a year.
trying to say that you're going to read these thin, tiny little
No,
books?
no, they're like proper books. So each one I'm reading right now is an average between 250 and 350 pages.
Okay.
I'm on my book number 29, which I just finished today.
Already.
The book that I
More
just
than half.
finished is a small book. It's a Little Prince, and I always thought it was a book for kids. I didn't realize till I picked it up. Someone had sent it, gifted it to my daughter. She tried to read it and she didn't understand it. And then I was like, okay, if she's not understanding it, then let me see what it is. I read that, and I think every adult should read that book. Um,
What is it called?
It's called The Little Prince.
The Little Prince
And
by?
it's a French
Okay.
name. I think it's a long name, and somehow I never remember the names of authors. I'm like, how is it going to change my life when I remember the name of the person who's written it or not?
Also, what is materialistic is
What's
the
between
content.
the pages,
Yes.
right? Yeah. So like, that's why everything which is irrelevant, like I never stress about remembering people's names or like authors' names, movie names. I'm like, I watched it. I took what I had to take out of it. That's it. Like, why are we crowding our brain
Correct.
with so many unnecessary things, all that information that we don't need? So I'm sorry I don't have the name of the author, but
No
it's called The
problem,
Little
that's
Prince.
fine.
A beautiful book that you should read. I just finished that book before I left for this podcast. I started reading another one, which I feel is going to be a beautiful book as well. It's called The Stationery Shop of Tehran.
Tehran, okay.
It's again about like, it's a very women-centric book. So yeah, so I'm on my book number 30. I just have 10 more books to go. And I'm like, how did I do this? Like, I never thought I would finish it. But I guess when you focus and you decide that you want to give yourself all these things, you would.
So you are financially strong and you're able to do all whatever you have been doing. What would your experiences be if you weren't this strong?
I don't know. I can't imagine a life doing, not doing what I'm doing. Like, things come, things go. You will have, suddenly you will not know what's going to come and hit you, and you're going to fall. Like, you're going to fall and hurt yourself. But I've always picked up myself from there because that's the only thing I know, right? So
Okay. So there is no full stop to you, and there is no force that can stop you. It's the personal strength that gives you this push and
I guess
motivate you.
when you grow up in a house where you don't have men telling you what to do, I think that was the beauty. Like, so I think because I grew up in a house of women who always made their own decisions. Like, they never had to second guess or they never had to get somebody's approval, and I think that's what made me what I am today. So now I don't know how it would be or how it is for other people who have to ask for permission or check if what they're doing is all right or not. Like, I make all my own decisions, whether they're financial, whether they're emotional, anything. And Sahil has always been very supportive. Like, he never, I travel alone. Like, I go to places and I don't have to ask him, hey, I need to take time off. I look at my work schedule, I book my tickets, everything's done. And then I'm like, hey, just FYI, I'm traveling. Hopefully you're not, because, Shloka's at home. So things like that. And he's never told me that, why are you traveling alone, or why are you doing this, or why are you spending your money here, or any of it. Like, he lives his life independently. I live my life independently. We do things together. But we never question the other person. Like, there's never, why this, why are you doing this, why are you doing that. And again, to have like a supportive spouse like that who understands how your personality is and doesn't interfere too much in your life, lets you be yourself. Like, that's also
You've
because
got that space and you have given that space.
absolutely, like, there's that amount of trust that, fine, you can do your thing. I'll be around when you need me. I'll do my thing. If I need you, I'll ask. And just the best part is that we've seen Conçu grow like a baby for 12 years, and we put our heart and soul into it. So I guess, like, all my relationships, they're so beautifully managed by them and me. that it allows me to be who I am today, and everything works. Everything's like, I wouldn't change anything. Like, you tell me, what do you want to change in your life? I'd say nothing. Like, just nothing.
You're happy and content.
Extremely, like,
Okay.
extremely.
With this, let's have a quick rapid fire. What's your favorite from Conçu menu?
It's so hard to pick. I would say the Russian Medovik. That's been my favorite forever. So
What's your favorite cafe in the world?
there's this place called Princi that me and Sahil would, before we got married, we used to go on our dates. It's in London. It's very well designed, great menu. So yeah, Princi will be forever in my heart.
If you were to invite a person to Conçu, who would that be?
My grandmother, if I could bring her back and show her what I've done, definitely her.
She would be the happiest. Sweet or savory?
Sweet, I think.
You have a sweet tooth.
Totally.
Wow. One advice that you would love to give to the women or people who are planning to start a cafe, what is the most needed ingredient to build this up?
I think belief in yourself. Like, a lot of people are always looking outwardly to see what's happening. With us, it was always inward looking. Like, what can we do to be better tomorrow than what we are today? So every day is like, okay, tomorrow I need to be better than this. Then day after I need to be better than that. Like, it's little steps. I think don't focus so much on the end goal. Like, just focus on the journey and make sure every bit that you're doing it right.
Okay.
And you're putting in your 100%. Like, there's no scope for adjustments and compromises over there. You have to go all in with all your passion, give up everything if you need to, a lot of sacrifices. But and at some point you need to know when to give up as well. Like, there are times when things fail, but we are so attached to it that we don't want to give up. That's the mistake a lot of people make. Like, they wait for so long that, there's no coming back from there. You need to know what is the right time to close that door and open another one. So that's
Wow, interesting. With this, we would like to end today's conversation. I would like to end it with a note. Let's not sit and brood over for our dreams not being fulfilled. Opportunities are like buses. They will keep coming. There's another one coming. Given a chance, grab it and don't be afraid to run after it. Keep liking and support us. For new episodes, please subscribe us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get to hear our podcast. Please subscribe to us on All That She Wants.